Hello, friend. I've been wanting to record this one for a little while, and I'm not sure where it's going to go. But I was reading an article astrologer friend sent to me. This woman on Patreon, or femme on Patreon, talks about our relationship to time, and I'll link the article below. And if you're not an astrologer, it might be a little too in the weeds with some of the technical astrological stuff. But the main thing is they talk about their relationship with time and all of our relationships to time. And they mention that one of the things they like about astrology is that it helps them have a different relationship with the concept of time. And that's also why I love astrology, and in particular following the cycles of the moon, because I recognize that it's helped me be more in flow with my own natural rhythm, the seasons. That's what I love about astrology. I feel like it connects me to my ancestors who plan things by, summer solstice, winter solstice, spring equinox, fall equinox, excuse me. And, before we were so dependent on technology and machines, that's how people lived. They lived by the literal rhythms and cycles of nature. That's how they knew when to plant and to harvest and when to go to sleep and when to wake up. And I think there's still some part of us in our DNA that desires to live that way. And I also think that as we evolve, our DNA expands and changes, that our relationship to time is changing. And I see other astrologers talking about that as well. But the main concept that they really clarify for me, and I think this distinction has always been running in the background for me, but I like how they broke it down in such a way that it really relieved the shame and the guilt that I've had about my relationship to time and how I spend my time, quote unquote, or how I invest my time. Um, they talk about how in our current culture, especially if you're in Western culture, that um, what's valued is if you're producing or consuming. And so if you're not being in producing mode, labor, earning something for either your business or another business, or if you're not consuming, just buying something or consuming something as part of your leisure, that if we are not producing or consuming, we are quote unquote wasting time. And I have felt that most of my life when I wasn't doing either of those things. When I was in my creative space, or when I was just simply being, relaxing, meditating, just flowing with my own energy. And I crave more and more of that as I get older. One of the reasons I wanted to be a spiritual entrepreneur is that I desire and need large periods of time where I am not doing anything. And for many years, I worked part-time because it's what my nervous system really needed. And yeah, it was hard financially because I was under earning as a result of working part-time. And I'm so glad I gave myself that space because, and part of it was that like I told myself, oh, I'm going to work on this other stuff. I'm going to write books or I'm going to like build a business. And I really didn't. And I look back on that time now and I recognize that I didn't do a lot of that. Is that because I needed time for my nervous system to just unwind. I needed to not be in production mode. I needed space to just drift. And so much unconscious healing happened for me in that space of just hanging out on the beach or just reading novels that I wanted to read or, just drawing and sketching, like not having an end goal. And I actually didn't do enough of that time as I look back on it because a part of me was in that mindset of I have to produce or consume. So I felt because I was working part-time, I should at least be taking classes, learning about entrepreneurship. And I did, and I'm glad I did. And I did a lot of other workshops on healing and therapy, and I was going to therapy. And working part-time gave me time to process and sit with what came up during therapy. And until very, very recently, like I'm talking like last week, did I finally release all the guilt and shame that I had around having quote unquote so much time and not having anything to show for it, not having built a business, not getting married, not having kids, not buying a house, not owning all the things. Because genuinely, I didn't want any of that. I knew at age 14, I was not going to give birth. I had zero desire to give birth to a child. I wasn't sure if I didn't want to be a parent. I'm still open to the idea of being a step parent. That's always appealed to me, actually. Like if I thought if I'm ever going to have children that I'm quote unquote responsible for, that's how it would look. But I had zero desire to give birth. Um, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to commit to motherhood when I was in my 30s or 40s. And because I was recovering from so much of the trauma I experienced as a child and teenager, my brother was bipolar, schizophrenic, and like there was a lot of chaos in the house as a result of that. And when you're living with someone who has severe mental illnesses, and my brother was a severe case of schizophrenia and bipolar, like it was not manageable, and he was in and out of institutions. And plus, things have changed now. This was a long time ago, like over 20 years ago. So the medicines have gotten better, the therapy's gotten better. Like I'm grateful that people have better resources and can actually live like fairly like normal lives now, if that is the case. And if that is your experience, I definitely hope that you have the support and resources that you need, or if you are a caregiver or living with someone, supporting someone who has those challenges, I hope that you have the resources and support that you need. And also just, the deaths that I had experienced, losing my father as a kid and my best friend in my early 30s. Like I had a lot of unprocessed grief and rage. And I didn't have the modalities that I have now that help me move through those things faster, that help me alchemize that stuff faster. But I'm also grateful that I did it the slow way, because now when I work with other clients, I can relate to where people are and how they're moving through things. Like it gives me a skill set that I can now share with others. And I'm profoundly grateful that I'm on the other side of all of that, that I have emotional and mental freedom. And so none of that stuff was quote unquote a waste of time. Although I know that there are people who would look at me and my life and say that. And you know what? I can live with that. Like everyone's allowed their opinion, their judgment, um, but I don't have to take it on. I don't have to internalize that. And I genuinely don't. And I could not have said that even a year ago. Like if someone had come at me with that stuff, I would have internalized it. I would have taken that on. And now I recognize that I needed open space, open time to just drift. And one of the reasons why I didn't want to be a mother earlier in my life was intuitively, I just didn't think I'd have it emotionally to give to a child. And I was really scared that I would resent it. Um, and I was just really scared that I'd be a really um, bad mom. I was worried that I would I'd physically take care of them, I'd feed them and, make sure they were safe physically, but I wasn't sure I'd really have the capacity to do more than that. Like, I was really scared I would just be this really, like, cold, empty mom that I would just be like, you're here, I take care of you, and that's all I got to give you. Because I could barely give to myself. Um, and yeah, and a lot of it too was just my own fear of responsibility and commitment that I had to work through. And I'm definitely in a better space with that now, which is why now in my, 50s, I'm ready to be married and, and if my partner, has kids or grandkids even, like um, I can contribute now. I would be able to be there emotionally. I'd be able to be present and relate to those children or young people. And but I needed that time. If I hadn't given myself those years of just like not trying to get anywhere, and part of it too was depression and not knowing, well, not having the energy to do more than that. Like that was part of it too. Like I was so like stressed and traumatized, like in my body that I just only had a certain capacity for actual work. And I think there are a lot of people like that. And we're made to feel guilty if we're not able to be quote unquote productive members of society. Um, and that's why it's so difficult for so many people. And some of us are just really sensitive. Um, we just know the energies that we're experiencing within ourselves and other people, and we don't know how to shut it off or move through it, or dance with it. And that's what I've learned in the last couple of years is how to dance with all of that. And I've been able to become more discerning about what is mine to carry and what is not, and how to be fully present with myself. I spent so many years in metaphysical self-help communities learning how to be present, and I spent so much of that time focusing on being present with others, which is valuable. It's absolutely required. It's needed. Relationships are so much more nourishing when you are present with the people you're with. Absolutely. But what I didn't really focus on until like probably a year ago, frankly, maybe even less than a year ago, was how to be really present with me. Like so much of my meditation and shadow work and explorations of the self was all around fixing what's broken, healing. But we're moving beyond that. Like we're not fundamentally at our core broken. Like there are things that we maybe still need to move through, alchemize, integrate, but who we fundamentally are, like our actual essence, our soul, our source, like is divine, beautiful, um, okay, like whole as in WHOLE, like complete. We don't need to fix that. And like many of us, I went down that rabbit hole of thinking, oh, if I just fix this and I just fix that and I just do this and I just do that, everything's going to fall into place. I'm going to have this amazing, magical life. But what I'm seeing now, even with the teachers I've worked with, the people who quote unquote have it all, they still have messy things. Life is just always going to be messy to a certain extent. Excuse me. Um, yeah, like I just burped. And in the past, I would have like not put this recording up because I burped in the middle of it. So I apologize. But that's life. And although some people, when they're spiritually integrating things, that is part of the process. They burp. So maybe that's what's happening there as I'm going through this message. Uh, but yeah, time. So I'm inviting you to look at that. Do you really feel like you're only using time responsibly when you're producing or when you're consuming, like buying something or watching something on cable, streaming, watching things on YouTube, which I love to do myself. That's my favorite form of consumption these days, actually, is watching other folks on YouTube for the most part. But it's still consumption. Um, so are you able to give yourself time to just be, to sit, to garden, to draw, to dance, or, when you're spending that time, even if you're all watching stuff, when you're watching with other people as a way to bond, commune with, have conversation, um, or if it's just music in the background, just to allow yourself to unwind. And what does it spark in you, this conversation? Like, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? what's coming to the surface for you. And because I think so much of people's boredom is unconscious guilt about not being productive when they're not doing anything. But we're at a critical point in our evolution as a species. And I think, well, intuitively, I feel that this is a key part of it. To have time to drift and be unfocused, to be unproductive. Like even if it's just for a couple hours a week, even if you have kids or lots of other things going on, if you can have when the kids are with other people, other places, can you give yourself permission to just like drift, not do the laundry, not put something away, not fix on XYZ, or not complete something. Like sometimes it's good to give yourself that permission to be unfinished. Yeah, that's what it is. That's when things really opened up for me in my world. Is when I gave myself permission to just not ever finish, to not ever be complete, either on my journey or even with certain projects. Like if it's meant to be, I will have the intuition and the inspiration and the impetus to complete it. And when I gave myself permission to move from that, from inspiration and not have to, or not just because it looked good to other people, but to do it just because I enjoy it, because I feel good when I do it. Like having these conversations with you all, like in this space, like it is so nourishing, like satisfying in the way that like even more than that, like satiated. Like it is emotionally and physically nourishing to me. So this is why I do this. And I hope you find that if you have not already have that in your world. And yes, I give you permission to drift and unfurl. Allow your nervous system to unwind like a soft ball of yarn rolling across the floor. Just be easy. And I love you. So grateful for you all. And may you always honor the light within you.